Randonautica is an application that utilizes an arbitrary number generator and area settings to make coordinates for clients to explore in their neighborhoods. The application was released in February 2020 and became particularly popular during the COVID-19 lockdowns. People would often report their discoveries through video and post them online. Sometimes people find immensely creepy things or places or even wind up at the scene of a crime. A viewer named David sent me this first story and film. It was August of 2020. The weather had been nice, so he and a friend decided to use Randonautica out of boredom. They generated 4 anomalies in total. The first 3 were in someone's backyard or inaccessible areas. In the app, anomalies are points that can be either attractors or voids. Attractors are clusters of random points that are very dense, while voids are clusters with very low density. The 4th anomaly looked promising, so the 2 friends headed there. You can see on the screen the road they drove down, followed by the small path they walked after parking. The anomaly had a range of 470 m, so it was a fairly large area. But they didn't have to look around for long before making a strange and truly frightening discovery. This is a photo of the path they walked down. As they walked, they stumbled across a note stuck through a stick. On the outside, it read, "Write down your phone number." When opened, it read, "I can give you a phone number or even an email address. Give me your mailing address and I will send it to you." What it was referring to remained unclear. As you can see, it says, "Write down your phone number." Then when you open it, it reads, "Send this." So, it seems to say, "I can give you a phone number or even an email address. Give me your email address and I'll send it to you." This was just hanging on this tree branch. David ended up writing his number on the note and putting it back on the stick. Right next to the note were a bunch of bras arranged on a fallen tree limb, with no explanation. There was a total of 6 bras. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These things couldn't have been there for more than a few days, as they were found on August 6th, and the last rain was 3 days earlier. Yet the paper showed no signs of having gotten wet. Among some of the other things the friends found at the scene were 2 packets of condoms and a pot that seemed to have been used for a fire. The friends returned the next day on August 7th, and the note where he wrote his number was gone. A few days later, he got a text from an unknown number simply saying, "Hello." He replied, "Hello, who is this?" The number then responded with his address, and at that point he blocked the number. Whatever or whoever set up this scene remains a mystery. This next footage, posted online by Taylor Vasquez, documents her disturbing discoveries while also using Randonautica. She downloaded the app and generated a location not far from her house. The location turned out to be an abandoned stream-looking area. So I keep seeing that Randonautica thing all over TikTok, and I really want to try it out. So I just downloaded the app, and I found a location that's about 1.5 miles from my house. I'm gonna go check it out and see if I can find anything. At first, nothing seemed strange, and it appeared to be a typical random location the app might lead someone to, until she found a series of unsettling drawings, seemingly done by a child. Pretty creepy. Let's see what that is. Okay, I just opened up one of the photos, and it's whatever that is. Then we have these random 3. This one says, "It's your birthday," with the snowman. I don't know. And these 2 I just put together. It's like, "Play with me." While she's examining the drawings, she suddenly hears a disturbing sound. "Play with me" sounds like the voice of a young child, but the video cuts here. On a later date, Taylor returns to the stream, but this time, there are new drawings that weren't there last time, according to her. These ones are even creepier than the previous series, with one of the drawings being a sigil of Baphomet. As she's occupied with the drawings, the voice of a child can be heard in the background once again. They have messages on them, like these look like symbols. At first, she doesn't seem to hear it, but when she does, she bolts and the video cuts. After posting the video to TikTok, a viewer pointed out what appears to be the face of a small child peeking from behind a tree. Nobody was with me. Tell me if you guys think that looks like a ghost kid, because I don't know. Taylor uploads another video analyzing a journal she found at the stream, with each page revealing a new disturbing message. She returns to the brook one last time and finds not only a Ouija board made from a piece of cardboard, but also a large knife sitting next to it. This was the last time Taylor considered returning to the stream, so whatever was going on there will remain a mystery. Like many things posted online, there's no 100% proof that this entire series of videos wasn't staged. However, certain parts of the videos made viewers feel more convinced, particularly the weathered-looking pieces of paper with the drawings, along with the disturbing image of the child's face in the video. Whether this was genuine is really up to the viewer to decide. This story was sent by viewer Davey S. One night, while scrolling through TikTok, she came across a story about a couple of kids who were using Randonautica and, after following the directions they were given, arrived at a secluded beach area where they found a suitcase washed up containing something disturbing. But I'll talk more about that later. Davey and her roommate Ash saw this and were determined to make their own creepy discovery on the app. They invited 2 other friends to join them, and once they all gathered, they went to Davey's room to figure out how to use the app. They set a radius around their current location, 29 kilometers, or around 18 to 19 miles. After hitting generate to get the location, a screen popped up telling them to set their intentions for what they wanted to experience during the trip. The word they entered was creepy. The location the app provided was eerily close to her home. Davey and her friends live in a rural part of Alabama on Post Mountain, and at the bottom of the mountain is an abandoned steel plant among a few other deserted buildings and a lower-income neighborhood. The location the app gave them was 3 streets from their house. The location was on a very long road that went on for miles with no other crossing roads. The friends piled into Davey's car with her friend Misa in the front seat and her friends Ash and B in the back seat. It didn't take long for the girls to reach the road. As Davey was about to turn left, she looked at the road sign, Owl's Hollow Road. Davey's friends went from loud and excited to immediately silent as she said, "We're here." Davey kept driving down this dark road, surrounded by trees and no streetlights. It was pitch black at around 1 a.m., so the group definitely felt the creepiness factor setting in. As they approached the destination, Davey pulled to the roadside. At this point, all 3 of Davey's friends were growing uneasy about the whole thing as they saw a very dark path that led into the woods. The 4 friends sat in the car for a few moments and nervously laughed about whether they should go through with this or not, but they all felt uncomfortable. They all started to agree that it felt like they were being watched, even though they were in a locked car. They felt vulnerable, alone, with only a dying phone and a switchblade. So they all agreed to leave and pulled off down the road. They kept driving, exploring this narrow road, and it was just trees and the occasional street light. Davey was getting tired and decided to just do a 3-point turn on the very narrow road and head home. There was a sense of relief until they realized they'd have to pass the path again. As they passed it, Davey looked in her rearview mirror and saw what appeared to be a hooded male figure standing in front of the path. She pressed the gas even harder, but she didn't tell her friends what she saw because she didn't want to scare them. The friends briefly talked about the night before falling asleep around 2 a.m. The next morning, B went home and Davey took Ash to work. Misa decided to hang out with Davey for a bit longer before she had to be home in a few hours. They talked about going back to the path since it was daylight, and they felt a bit more comfortable. They made their way back to the path and got out of the car, this time with keys and phones in one hand and a folding knife in the other. As they walked up the path, they realized it led uphill, something they hadn't noticed the night before because it was so dark. They started to feel like something was wrong, like they were being watched again. They reached the top of the path, which led to a clearing, almost like a dump site, as she described it. There were tires, fast food trash, household items, and so forth. The 2 began checking out some more and went over a lot of sleeping cushions dissipated all through it was to clear the upsetting aspect. Beddings were made beds, pads, covers, sheets generally that you'd expect on a made bed. The sight was so disrupting that the 2 companions consented to leave. They rushed back downhill towards the vehicle, and about midway Misa halted in front of Davey and pointed into the woods and expressed out loud whatever is that as she recognized a red cooler in a little trench, something they hadn't seen on the way. Uphill they ventured down into the trench to inspect it, and as they strolled over to it, every one of the 2 companions could smell was the odor of something spoiling upon Checking out the encompassing region, she recognized a dead feline body lying a couple meters away of trying not to get as well. Near the dead corpse, she got a large stick and shifted the cooler upstanding, which had a touch of weight to it, making it troublesome something could be heard slicing around within it, as was it. Brimming with ice, she pushed the stick into its highest point and opened it somewhat, and at the point when it opened, a whirlwind damp, rotten air hit Davy in the face bugs. Furthermore, slimy parasites promptly began coming out of the cooler alongside a loathsome smell of rotting overwhelming the smell of the feline after opening it somewhat more. What she saw was a roll of wet, tangled, dark hair. Davy ran back to Misa and shouted to get in the vehicle. The two sped not too far off as Misa wildly inquired Davy what was in the cooler. However, she couldn't open her mouth in anxiety toward vomiting in the wake of driving a little ways up the street, wanting to track down a carport to help with pivoting. Davy at last surrendered and did another truly close three-point turn on the thin street, yet the two would need to pass the path once again. As they did, Davy saw a few bits of wood in the street that had not been there before. She glanced around and saw something similar, hooded male figure for the night prior. Remaining in the forest, she drove her vehicle over the bits of wood, harming the lower part of her front guard, and afterward sped off back home. She and her companion gotten back to the path once again since this episode to record the path, which was the recording you've been seeing. Davy has erased the Randonautica application. What's more, not utilized it, since prior I had referenced that there was a video that roused Davy and her companions to attempt the actual application. That video was recorded by a couple TikTok clients who each posted their own points of the video. Folks, we found that go, I'll hold your stuff, I don't realize, stand by, open it like going to find, open it to rest, it smells, you all it washed, gracious man, alright, so she okay, so she's calling the police so we can check whether it's in reality a dead body or it's simply food. What, tracked down a bag on in ALA Oceanside, why here's the crime location, so we just tracked down this bag and we're going to get it, okay, so they're like opening it up with the sticks cause we try not to need to. As folks, there's a sack, there's a bee, like a dark pack in there. The Randonautica application produced a area that drove them to a stone break wall under a wharf at the shore of ALA Oceanside in West Seattle, when they viewed as a strange dark bag appeared on a bundle of rocks under the scaffold. As they moved toward the bag, they understood there was a foul smell emanating from the bag, and the items in the bag might more upset than they had at first thought. The teenagers called the police, yet with Seattle police reaction times being famously slow, the police required 3 to 4 hours to appear, and at that point the tide had sufficiently risen to where the bag had washed away. It took a scuba group to recover the bag and its items. The items were for sure very upsetting. The remaining parts of a couple, Jessica Lewis, who was 35, in Austin Wenner, who was 27, were found within the dark trash container inside the bag. Their killer was their property manager, Michael Dudley, who the pair had recently contended with in regards to their lease installments. It was accounted for by neighbors that the evening of the match's homicide, a male voice could be heard shouting, kindly don't do this, just let me leave, before shots were terminated, and this was purportedly 10 days before the bag was tracked down. The recordings had at last been brought somewhere around the teenagers, with such countless individuals utilizing an application that is intended to send you to arbitrarily produced places. It's unavoidable that now and then individuals will run into a few horrendous things that they were not expected to find. So assuming you in all actuality do utilize the application or anything like, it's ideal to simply stay alarmed to your environmental factors. Like, share, and buy in my YouTube feed ghostly Gloom stories.